Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. The first thing I noticed was the lipstick on the seatbelt. It wasn't the usual coral shade she wore. This was bolder, darker, like something you'd wear when you want someone to remember kissing you. She must have reapplied it after she left the office. Funny thing is, she told me she was skipping makeup that day because of a sinus headache. I didn't say a word. I clicked the seatbelt back in place and walked inside like I hadn't just been gut punched. She was already home, on the couch, legs tucked under a throw blanket she only uses when she's trying to look relaxed. "Hey babe," she said, not looking up from her phone. "Dinner was productive. I'm wiped." She didn't ask about my night. She never does anymore. I walked past her, into the kitchen, opened the junk drawer, and took out the small black USB stick I'd hidden there 3 days ago. Inside it was one file, exactly 3 hours and 11 minutes long. Audio only. No video needed. I hadn't listened to it yet. I wasn't sure I even wanted to. But tonight felt different. I made tea. Chamomile. She hates the smell of it, calls it old people water. That's why I brewed it. Passive, I know. But I needed something. She disappeared upstairs soon after. Said she had a report due. Sure. I sat in the kitchen, lights off except for the stove glow, and finally plugged the USB into my laptop. The first 5 minutes were just driving. Wind. Blinker clicks. Then a man's voice. "You sure he doesn't suspect anything?" Her voice followed. "He doesn't even ask questions anymore. It's like he knows but doesn't want to know." Laughter. My hands curled into fists, nails digging into my palms. More dialogue. More laughter. Then silence. But not the innocent kind. That heavy, breathy kind that makes your stomach flip. That's when I paused the recording. Not because I couldn't listen, but because I needed her to. With me. Tomorrow. I renamed the file. Called it Grocery List. MP3. And I put it on the living room speaker system. Queued up, ready to play. She'd be the one to press it. I'd just sit there. Smile. Say nothing. But when she hears it, let's just say, she won't make it to the end. The next morning started too quiet. She came down in one of my old college hoodies like she used to when we were happy. Back then, it was cute. Now it felt like camouflage. She kissed my cheek. A quick, polite peck, the kind you give your dentist, and said, "I barely slept. You?" I smiled. Same. I had already made her breakfast. Eggs, toast, half an avocado. Just like she liked it when she wasn't pretending to be too busy to eat. She sat down on the couch, legs tucked under her, plate in hand, scrolling her phone. I sat in the armchair across from her, coffee in one hand, remote in the other. "Want music?" I asked casual. "Yeah, sure," she mumbled, not looking up. I tapped the remote. The speakers crackled, then silence. 2 seconds. Then the audio started. It began exactly how I remembered. The sound of her engine. Low volume. Background noise. Then came her voice, clearer than air. She froze. I saw it hit her before the words even registered. Her jaw tightened. Her fork clinked against the plate. She stared at the speaker like it had grown teeth. He doesn't even ask questions anymore. It's like he knows but doesn't want to know. Her head whipped toward me. "What is this?" I didn't blink. "Something I found in the car." "You're awful," the man's voice said, laughing. "He's sweet," she replied. "But boring. I need to feel wanted." She jumped up, nearly knocked over her plate. "Turn it off." I didn't move. "You said you wanted music." "If I didn't fake it, we'd never sleep together anymore," she laughed in the recording. "I've become an actress in my own home." Ellis. Turn. IT. Off. I took a sip of my coffee. "Why? You sound so happy." Her face twisted. Not guilt. Not sadness. Rage. That look people get when they've lost control of the story. She lunged for the remote, but I had already hit pause. Silence flooded the room again. I stood slowly. "You don't have to finish it." I already did. She was breathing hard now, like she had run up the stairs. "You had no right." I stepped closer. Calm. "I had every right. I've been losing pieces of you for months. I just didn't know someone else was collecting them." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. No excuses came. No lies. Just the reality of the moment sitting between us like shattered glass. She took a step back. "This isn't you. You don't do things like this." And there it was, the insult hidden as a compliment. She thought I'd roll over like always. Let it slide. Cry quietly in another room while she rebranded betrayal as a rough patch. But not this time. I handed her the flash drive with the full recording. "You might want to listen to the rest." There's a part where you say he's worth risking everything for. You should figure out if you still believe that." She didn't take it. She just stood there, frozen. Like the sound of her own voice had done something irreversible. And honestly, it had. She hadn't even heard the worst part yet. But she would. She didn't listen to the rest of the recording. She left the flash drive sitting on the kitchen counter like it might explode if she touched it. For the rest of the day, she moved around the house like a stranger borrowing space, opening drawers slower, closing doors quieter, avoiding every mirror like her own reflection might ask her something she couldn't answer. Around noon, she texted her sister. I saw the name light up on her phone when she left it unlocked to take a shower. I didn't read the messages. I didn't need to. I knew the playbook. She'd tell her she was being emotionally ambushed, that I was controlling, that it wasn't cheating, it was confusion. It was wild how fast she pivoted from guilty to victim. By 2 p.m., she tried the let's talk approach. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded like a high schooler caught skipping class. I stayed standing, back against the wall, watching her try to construct a version of events where I somehow misunderstood a recording of her saying, "I fake everything with him now." "I was venting," she said. "People say dumb things when they're tired." I nodded. "You weren't tired. You were energized. Excited. You even laughed." "That wasn't me. I don't know who that was." I kept my eyes on her. "That's the part that scares me most. You didn't sound like a different person. You sounded real. Like I haven't heard you sound in years." She looked away. Her bottom lip trembled just slightly, like she couldn't decide whether she should cry or stay composed. The performance cracked when she asked, "Are you going to leave me?" I paused, surprised. She didn't say, "I'm sorry." Didn't say, "I want to fix this." Just, "Are you going to leave me?" Even now, it was about control, not consequences. She didn't care that she hurt me. She cared that I might stop tolerating it. I didn't answer. Not yet. She didn't deserve an answer when she hadn't even faced what she said. So I pulled out my phone and played the next part of the recording. She tried to stop me, but I held it close. Just loud enough. He's comfortable. Predictable. I can't even remember the last time he looked at me like I was desired. "You like having him as a backup," the man said. "I like not having to start from scratch," she laughed. "Stability is a good cover." She covered her mouth like the words had punched her. Maybe they had, but they were hers. "I didn't mean it," she whispered. I turned off the audio. "But you said it. And you said it so easily. That's what I can't get past." The silence afterward was different. It wasn't about fear. It was about something breaking. Something big. Something quiet. Like when a frozen lake fractures beneath your feet and all you hear is a low groan, a warning before the plunge. She stood. "You're going to make me the villain." I stepped aside, letting her pass. "No, you did that part all by yourself." She didn't look back as she walked out the room. But I wasn't finished. There was still one voice missing from this entire mess. The man on the recording. And I had just found out who he was. I didn't recognize his voice at first. That's what scared me the most. I had listened to it for over 3 hours, rewound it, slowed it down, tried to match the tone to someone in our lives. But nothing clicked. It wasn't a friend. Not someone from work. Not a neighbor. It was someone I'd never suspected. That was the whole point, wasn't it? Then yesterday, Tessa made a mistake. She left her laptop open while she was out, taking a drive to clear her head. I wasn't going to snoop. I swear I wasn't. But it dinged. An email notification from someone named Rylan P. With the subject line, "Hey, I'm still thinking about last night." Rylan. I hadn't heard that name in forever. I clicked the message and felt my stomach twist as it loaded. "You smelled like him again." Made it even hotter. "You sure he still doesn't know?" It wasn't just an affair. It was a joke. A shared game between them, with me as the punchline. I dug deeper. Searched her inbox. Found a dozen emails, some with screenshots of text threads, others just full-on written fantasies. It was like reading a script where I was the clueless husband character written in for pity. Rylan Prescott. That was his full name. And yes, eventually, the voice did become familiar. He used to date Tessa's college roommate. He was at our wedding. He was the guy who always slapped my back too hard when we ran into him at parties. He was the old friend she'd grab coffee with when she needed to vent. I had no idea how close they still were. But the most humiliating part? There was a photo buried in one of the threads, nothing graphic, but clear enough. They were at a motel. The timestamp was from the night She said she was going to dinner with her boss. The same night, she came home smelling like pine soap, claiming the restaurant bathroom had run out of paper towels. So this morning, I printed that photo. Not because I needed proof, but because I needed her to see it out in the open, unignorable. I left it on the kitchen table under a single sheet of paper, a printed transcript of everything she said on that recording. Word for word. I didn't add commentary. No highlights. No insults. I wanted the words to hang heavy without my voice attached to them. Let the guilt do the talking. When she came back from her drive, she didn't even make it all the way to the table. Her eyes caught the edge of the printout, and she stopped cold, keys still in her hand. She didn't ask questions this time. Didn't offer excuses. She just said, "Did you read all of it?" I nodded. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Not sad. Not sorry. Just caught. She sat down slowly and stared at the transcript like it was an obituary. Then came the part one didn't expect. "I think I was trying to get caught," she said quietly. I didn't know how to end it without ruining everything. I leaned against the counter and forced myself to breathe. "You mean you didn't want to be the villain?" She looked up. I don't know what I wanted. And suddenly I did. I wanted clarity. I wanted to understand what kind of person destroys something slow enough to avoid the sound of breaking. But most of all, I wanted him to see what he broke, too. And I had a plan for that. He walked into the restaurant like he owned it. Ryland Prescott wore confidence like a tailored suit. Smiling, relaxed, with that same cocky stride I remembered from my wedding. The one where he toasted me with a wink like he already knew his secret. Now I knew it too. He didn't recognize me right away. Maybe he expected Tessa. Or maybe he assumed I'd never have the guts to face him head on. But when I stood up from the corner booth and waved him over, his whole body flinched. Just slightly. But I caught it. "Ellis," he said, eyes scanning around. "Didn't expect to see you here." I gestured to the seat across from me. "Let's talk." He hesitated for a second, then sat. Confident mask still on, but there was a flicker of something beneath it. Uncertainty, maybe. Or guilt pretending to be calm. "I assume this isn't just about the crab cakes," he said. I slid a folded napkin across the table. Inside was a printed copy of the motel photo and the transcript of their conversation, the same one I gave Tessa. No commentary. No threats. Just facts. Ryland didn't open it. He stared at the napkin, then at me. "I don't know what you think this is going to solve." I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "This isn't about solving anything. This is about letting you know I'm not the idiot you and she made me out to be." He sighed, sat back. "Ellis, man, it wasn't personal." That sentence broke something in me I didn't know was still holding together. "Not personal," I repeated. "You slept with my wife, laughed about me behind my back, used our marriage like a set for your little secret romance. And you're telling me it wasn't personal?" He didn't answer. Maybe for once, he realized there was nothing clever to say. The server came to take our order. I told her we'd need a few minutes. She smiled, unaware of the invisible wreckage on the table. "I'm not here to fight," I said. "I'm not even here to ask why. I already know why. People like you don't think about the damage. You chase the thrill. And people like me, we're just obstacles. Props in your story." Ryland's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. "I just wanted you to see the end of your story," I continued. "To sit here, like a grown man, and look me in the eye after months of hiding. You deserve that much, don't you?" "Eye contact with the man you stole from." Still nothing. I stood up and left a small envelope on the table. Inside was the same audio file on a flash drive. "I don't care if you listen. I just want you to own it. To carry the weight you've both been tossing back and forth like a joke." Ryland looked up, finally. "So what now? You burn it all down?" I gave a small, tired smile. "No, I just stopped pretending it's not already ashes." And then I walked out. No threats. No shouting. Just the sound of the doorbell jingling behind me as I stepped back into the night. Tessa didn't know I met him. Not yet. But the next phase wasn't about confrontation. It was about decision. Because now the question wasn't whether she betrayed me. It was whether I could ever look at her again and not see that motel room in her smile. I didn't come home that night. I drove past the street twice, lights off, just to see if she was awake. The house was dark. No porch light. No waiting shadow. I parked in the grocery lot a few blocks away and sat there for hours, just listening to the ticking of my dashboard clock and thinking about how easy it had become for her to lie. How natural betrayal looked on her. It wasn't even dramatic anymore. Just routine. When I finally walked in the door the next morning, The first thing I saw was the flash drive still sitting untouched on the kitchen counter. Same place I'd left it. She hadn't moved it. Hadn't even pretended to care what was on it. That's when I realized she wasn't scared I'd leave. She was scared I finally wouldn't. She came downstairs wrapped in a robe like nothing had happened, like we hadn't crossed the line between reparable and ruined days ago. Her eyes were puffy, but her voice was calm. "I figured you needed space," she said. I didn't respond. I took off my jacket, placed my keys on the table, and walked past her. Not because I was being cold, but because I had run out of words she hadn't already destroyed. "Ellis," she said again, softer this time. "You're not saying anything." I turned around. "That's the point." She folded her arms, defensive now. "So what? You're just going to punish me by shutting down?" "I'm not punishing you. I'm giving you what you gave me, silence." She followed me into the living room, trailing frustration behind her like perfume. "I told you I was confused. I didn't plan for this to happen. It spiraled." "No," I said. "You nurtured it. You fed it. You built a second life and wore it like a second skin." Her expression shifted, her control slipping. "So what? You want me to beg? Fall apart on the floor? Would that make you feel better?" I almost laughed, but not because it was funny. Because it was so familiar. Her guilt always came with strings. She couldn't just be sorry. She had to be right, even in the ruins. "I don't want anything from you," I said. "Not anymore." That was the moment she finally broke. She slumped onto the couch like the words knocked the air out of her. She didn't cry, not really, but her hands trembled as they reached for the flash drive she had ignored all night. She stared at it like it might explode. "You gave him a copy too?" she asked, barely above a whisper. I nodded. He deserved to hear what he helped destroy. She closed her eyes and let her head fall into her hands. "Jesus, I can't believe you did that." "That's the difference between you and me," I said. "You hide things in the dark. I put them under the brightest light I can find." I left her sitting there, went upstairs, closed the door, and for the first time in months, I slept. Not because I was at peace, but because I had finally stopped chasing a version of her that no longer existed. I knew what I had to do next, and I knew it would hurt. But there's a specific kind of pain that feels like freedom. She didn't know I had packed. I did it slowly, over 3 days. A sweater here, some files there. My old records, the ones she never cared about, already boxed and taped in the trunk of my car. I left the wedding photos on the wall, the couch we bought together, even my toothbrush in the holder. I wanted her to feel surrounded by the life she built, with all the space I used to occupy carved clean out. On Saturday morning, I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, the way I always did, and let the smell drift through the house like it was any other weekend. She came down wearing leggings and a sweatshirt she stole from me years ago, back when we used to fight over who got the last cup. She froze when she saw the manila envelope on the kitchen island. My name written in clean black marker on the outside. "What is that?" she asked, voice already cracking. "Everything you said you wanted," I replied. "Space. Time. A clean slate." She stepped closer. "Ellis, don't. I'm not slamming doors, Tess. I'm just walking through one for once." She grabbed the envelope, opened it, and pulled out the document inside. Her hands trembled as she read the first page. "I never thought you'd actually file." "I know. That's why I had to." Her mouth opened like she wanted to object, but she couldn't find the right lie fast enough. The panic didn't come from heartbreak. It came from loss of control. This wasn't a romantic tragedy for her. It was the unraveling of a plan she thought was too cleverly built to collapse. "I can fix this," she blurted. We can talk to someone." "You already did," I said coldly. "His name's Rylan. And you didn't talk. You just whispered things I was never supposed to hear." Her eyes filled, but I couldn't tell if it was regret or just fear. And I didn't care anymore. That was the most surreal part. Realizing the version of me who used to need her apology had finally disappeared. She followed me to the door. "You're just giving up?" "No," I said, gripping the handle. "I'm finally choosing myself." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You said you'd never leave me. And you said you loved me," I replied. We both lied. I stepped out into the morning sun, the air sharp with the first hints of fall. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. That house, that woman, that story, they were no longer mine. In the rearview mirror, I saw the curtains move. But I wasn't going to be the one waiting anymore. 3 months later, I woke up in a small second-floor apartment above a used bookstore. The mattress was too firm, The radiator clicked at night, and the kitchen sink had exactly one working burner. And yet, I hadn't felt this grounded in years. It's funny what happens when you stop living inside someone else's version of love. At first, everything feels hollow. Your routine collapses. You forget what your favorite meal is because you spent so long eating what they liked. You walk around like a ghost of a husband. But then, slowly, something shifts. You hear your own voice again. You start speaking to yourself with kindness, not shame. Tessa tried contacting me twice. Once through email, once through a friend who didn't know any better. But I didn't respond. What was there to say? She wasn't mine anymore. Not because I hated her, but because I finally loved myself enough to stop accepting almost. I started tuning pianos again, real ones, old and moody, with broken keys and too much history in their bones. There was something healing in that. You press a key, and it rings wrong. You keep adjusting, listening, shifting until it sings again. It's slow work, but honest. One day, while working on an antique upright in the back of a community center, a woman sat down beside me. Her name was Maribel. She was the director of a local music program and had a laugh that came from the gut. We talked about music, childhood, and, eventually, heartbreak. She didn't ask about my past. She just listened when I offered it. And that was all I'd ever needed. Someone who didn't want to rewrite my story, just to hear it and stay. The truth is, peace doesn't show up like fireworks. It's quiet. It's choosing to sleep through the night without checking your partner's location. It's cooking for one and smiling anyway. It's playing an out-of-tune piano until it remembers how to sing. I still think about the recording sometimes. Not with anger, just gratitude. Because without it, I'd still be standing in a burning house pretending it was warm. And if you're reading this, stuck in your own silence, wondering if they're lying or if you're just losing your mind, trust your gut. It's not paranoia. It's preservation. Because sometimes the strongest thing you'll ever do is nothing. You just sit. You listen. And when it's time, you walk. Thank you for watching. If you've made it to the end, let us know in the comments. Which moment hit you the hardest? And have you ever had to walk away quietly like Ellis did? We'd love to hear your story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts here on Reddit Confessions, where even the quietest voices are finally heard.